This video is about the First Scottish War of Independence. From 1296 to 1328, this war was fought with interruptions, mainly in Scotland, but also in northern England and Ireland. The war started with an English invasion of Scotland and ended with the Treaty of Edinburgh and Northampton. England had to formally recognize the Scottish independence. On the Scottish side, we have especially the two legendary figures William Wallace and Robert the Bruce, and on the English side, Edward I of England played a major role. To the background. In 1286, King Alexander III, King of Scots, died and his 3-year-old granddaughter Margaret ascended to the throne. Margaret lived in Norway, came to Scotland and died on arrival. And now we have 13 pretenders to the throne. The strongest were Robert the Bruce and John Balliol. The Guardians of Scotland were afraid that they can face civil war, and they decided to ask Edward I if he would not mediate the succession. Edward I said, "Wonderful," took the opportunity. The first thing he did was he made the nobility of Scotland swear allegiance to him. Edward was Lord Paramount of Scotland. Then, more or less he actually appointed John Balliol being King of Scots, and John had also to swear allegiance. Edward wanted this loyalty very quickly because he needed in 1294, he needed troops for an invasion of France. But the Scots refused, and they went a step further. They actually formed the old alliance with France. So England had now a threat from the north, from Scotland. That meant war, and the English took Berwick. Then England won the Battle of Dunbar, and John Balliol had to resign. It was very quick, it did not take long, till Scotland was under English control. Now, the Scots were not too happy with it, and two charismatic figures, William Wallace and Andrew de Moray, could gather the Scots for a new rebellion. They were successful in overwhelming victory in the Battle of Stirling Bridge, and then William Wallace was the Guardian of Scotland. But the English won the Battle of Falkirk. The time of Wallace was over, and now John Comyn and Robert the Bruce became Guardian. There were a few successful English campaigns in the following years, and John Comyn was able to negotiate a truce, and again the Scottish nobility had to swear allegiance to Edward. The end of this phase of the war can be seen as a symbolic end in the execution of William Wallace in London for high treason. Now, the whole war was not only between Scotland and England. A main reason or main factor was the instability in Scotland herself. And this was sorted by Robert the Bruce killing his rival for the throne, John Comyn. Then Robert the Bruce was crowned King of Scots, and it took him a few years. He had initially had quite some difficulties, but after a few years he had Scotland under control and freed from the British. The important battle, the decisive battle, was the Battle of Bannockburn in June 1314. So that turned the tides of war, but the war was not over, and now Robert started a few campaigns, his brother in Northern Ireland and other Scottish troops in Northern England. And at some point the English had to decide, right, there's no way, we need to formally accept the Scottish independence. Treaty of Edinburgh and Northampton, Scottish independence was secured. And that is one of the main direct impacts. Scottish independence is secured, and also, just mentioned before, Scotland was stable, internally stable again. But you have to note, you have to understand that under the surface it was not so stable at all. England still wanted to have Scotland, wanted to have influence, and also we have the disinherited. There were Scots who were allied with the English and were dispossessed during the war, and they want to go back to Scotland and take their lands, their estates back. And the consequence then is, of course, the Second Scottish War of Independence. This was the First Scottish War of Independence in 5.